Hey y'all, little old black eagle here. I just wanted to revisit the big topic that's come up recently in regards to forensic chick, who I now call forensic dick, because that also hasn't been confirmed or denied that she might have one. But my reason for calling her a dick is because I think she's a dick. Anyway, so I have done a little bit of research, which I'm assuming other people have as well, in regards to the conversation around rendering aid to somebody that might possibly be having any type of medical emergency. Our conversation was about somebody having a drug overdose and whether or not she would, well, I don't think the topic started around whether she would or wouldn't administer Narcan, but in the conversation, it came out that she would not, that she is sick and tired of having to continue to go out and give dope addicts Narcan, which to me, my interpretation was basically that when she's on the job, she had a prejudice against doing that. And I don't know whether or not that's where she was coming from, because in doing some research in regards to the obligation of an EMT or paramedic or, basically anybody with medical credentials, if they come across somebody having a medical emergency, in this case an overdose, are they required to administer life-saving precautions or Narcan, whatever? And legally, if they're not on the clock, they are not required to do so. And I have to think really hard. Do I judge? Am I going to judge somebody because they make the decision not to administer Narcan or whatever life-saving measures that could be done? And I do. I 100% judge somebody like that and hope to God that myself or a loved one or anybody really, that if and when they're in need of somebody to assist in that regard, that they don't come across somebody like forensic dick. So there's that. As far as all of her credentials, qualification, education, yada yada, well, first and foremost, I don't really give a shit. So whether or not I believe her is somewhat of a moot point, but because I don't really care. If she is, there you go. If she's not, well, there you go too. But yeah, I would like to think that the training that's provided for somebody in that type of a position doesn't just go into the specific life-saving measures. You have to, at some point, make I'm sure many different difficult assessments on a person, because quite frankly, there are times when you could probably be doing more harm than good, I'm guessing. But I mean, having raised 5 kids, I've spent my fair share of time in emergency rooms with broken arms and split lips and kids needing stitches and broken legs and all of that. And what comes to mind, as not only as a parent who, you're scared out of your wits, but you don't realize how much you rely on, you just, without question, assume that the people that are stepping in to caretake for your child is qualified. And, I think of specifically an incident that happened when my twins were 3 years old. Yeah, I can't even, it's like, how do I begin? Well, basically, my oldest child ran over one of my twins. And yeah, he survived. Ironically, he pretty much survived completely unharmed. But looking back on the incident, so to speak, shit, it was pretty crazy. And yeah. So what happened was we had just come back from a day at the beach. I had all 5 kids, and my oldest daughter, Dana, and her best friend had just gotten their license. And so, I mean, for her to be able to take what at the time it was a minivan, and it was a big deal. So we had spent the day at the beach, and we got back, and she wanted to take the van. And so if you can imagine, you pull in, there's 5 kids and a friend and beach bags and towels and coolers and, all of it. And so it's a little bit chaotic, right? And just instinctively, just what I do or what I did, no matter where you go, when you show up with kids, you're always counting heads. When you go into the grocery store or the mall or wherever, it's always like, okay, you got this one, you got that one, where's this one, where's that one? Anyway, so we pull in, and Dana and her friend Presley were helping the kids out, and I'm on my way into the house with beach bags and yada yada. And literally, I was in the process of counting, there's this one, there's that one, okay, okay. And just as it's sort of coming to me that I can't see Liam, I'm looking to see if he's still in the van. I know that he didn't go by me. So, like, literally, as I'm coming to that conclusion that I can't see him, Dana was backing out of the driveway. And you could see the van kind of bump over him. I couldn't see his body. And neighbors came from literally 4 streets away that I screamed so loud. And so that somebody, I still to this day have no idea who called 911. But 911, so anyway, so I scream, and she panicked. She didn't really know what was going on, and she pulled back in and fucking ran over him again. And so I realized what was happening, and I ran, and technically I probably, I don't know what I should have done or was supposed to do in a situation like that. I have no idea. If I'd had my wits, whatever, I just went and grabbed him, and I pulled him out, and I had him in my arms. And at the time, my hair was braided. I had, synthetic braids mixed with my own hair, which is how you do it. Anyway, and I basically went into a blackout. But they said that I was just screaming. It was like a wail, I guess. And my son Liam was also screaming. And I passed out with him literally in my arms. And by the time that happened, next thing I know, there's a paramedic with me on the ground telling me you need to let go of him. You need to let go of him. And so they got him out of, and the craziest thing was that one of the, it was a cop actually. I mean, there were paramedics and police there. And the cop that was actually the one saying to me, like, Sarah, you need to let go of him. We need to check him, was somebody that I knew. And, basically as an acquaintance. And I saw him, and it was like, okay, like I just had such trust in this guy that I didn't know what the fuck was going on, but he was like, okay, let go. You need to let go of him. That's how fucking tight I was holding on to this kid. And so they get him into the ambulance, and I was like, I've got to go with him. And they didn't want me to, because they said, basically, you're going to basically they said, listen, we need to, like, it wasn't about me at that point. They need to do life-saving measures, possibly on this kid. And they had called in, I guess the way it went was we were on the way to the hospital, and a chopper was already en route. There was already a team of specialists waiting for us at the hospital that they had flown in from Boston, I guess. And I just snapped out of it. I said, I need to be in the ambulance with him. And I calmed right the fuck down, because I knew that if I didn't, that I wasn't going to be able to go with him. And we get into the ambulance, and we're on the way there. And all I can tell you is that it was like, it's surreal. It's like you're in a fucking time warp, and it's a tunnel. and you can't see anything, you can't hear anything. And all of a sudden, the paramedic, he puts his hand on my knee, and he said, Sarah, he said, listen, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but I think he's okay. He's like, I don't know how this is true, but he's like, I think he's okay. He's like, it's going to be okay. And he wouldn't have told me that if he didn't, in his heart of hearts. And not only that, I mean, he probably legally shouldn't have said anything like that. Whatever, I don't know. So we get to the hospital, and it's about a 20-minute ambulance ride, and it was a big deal. Everybody was waiting for him and ready to go. And so they bring us into this waiting room, which was, to be honest, looking back on it and remembering, it was still in the operating area, so you could actually almost see them working on him. They put a curtain up, but it was right in the very next room from where we were. We weren't like in the waiting room. So anyway, I don't even know how much time went by. It was probably like about an hour or so. It really wasn't that long. And my entire family, for the most part, everybody was there. And I'll just never forget. Surgeon comes out, and everybody is like, is he okay? And the surgeon says, your son is fine. You can take him home. There's absolutely nothing wrong with him, other than he's badly bruised. We've had to, the majority of the time in there was taking gravel out of his back, like his whole back and the back of his legs. From the driveway was tar, but it also had dirt in it. And the side of his face was, it was pretty messed up. But so I asked the surgeon, I said, how can that be? The van went over him. He said, it's almost like kids in a pool that fall into a pool, that if you can get them in time, their body goes into an automatic protection mode. Their lungs literally almost close off so that water can't get in there for a period of time. And if you can get to them in that time period, they can be saved. He said it's almost like that. He said that, his cartilage, the cartilage in his body didn't specifically go to jelly, but it allowed the impact of the car, almost like, like if it was like a beach ball that wasn't quite full of air. Something to that effect. He said, he's absolutely, this is a miracle. And it quite literally could have been just milliseconds or millimeters or, minuscule centimeters of where the impact of the tire. I mean, there really is for all intents and purposes, it should have killed him. I mean, it was a fucking minivan, for God's sakes. So he's like, yeah, he's going to be sore. He might require some physical therapy, or, we obviously got to bring him back in for follow up. We're going to, and so, yeah, so, I mean, all the team came out, and everybody hugged and cried and the whole 9 yards. And we brought him through McDonald's drive-through on the way home because he was really hungry and he wanted a Happy Meal. But the ironic part it just doesn't stop. So my sister had come down to stay with the kids, and we walked through the door, and she said, "I'm not sure. Are you sure that Shay didn't get hurt?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm positive. He wasn't even near the van." And he had, because it was his twin, he was laid on the couch as if he had been beaten up. He was physically, she's like, "I didn't want to call you and tell you, but I'm thinking," she goes, he was just laying there like as if it, like somebody had beaten the crap out of him or something. So he was fine. And yeah, Liam was fine after. And that year, Dana was a senior and started school in September. That happened, I believe, in June or July. And, so the first day of school, their homeroom teacher was like, what'd everybody do for the summer? Everyone's like, well, I did this and I did that. And Dana's like, well, I ran over my brother. And, yeah. And so a friend of mine owned this cafe that I used to go to and play music at and stuff. And, I'd bring the kids in with me sometimes. And I had told my girlfriend what happened. And I said, but listen, it's really, don't bring it up to Dana, because it's just, she's embarrassed, she's upset. She's all she keeps saying is, I can't believe I almost killed my brother. I almost thought we were going to have to get her into counseling. But anyway, so sure enough, we go into my girlfriend's cafe, and I've got Dana with me, and she's like, hey, Dana. She says, I heard you ran over your brother. Dana's like, yeah. She's like, don't worry about it. She says, I shot my brother. And it was pretty funny. It was a BB gun, but anyway. So there you go. I don't know how I got off on that, but yeah. I'll never forget it. And yeah. Paramedics and people in the life-saving profession, I put in with the highest regard for. And my hope is, whether or not Forensic Dick actually works in the field, I hope and pray that nobody comes across her if they need her help.